is gone.
We lost
go?
somebody.
Yeah.
We had 5, now there are 4. Hi, everybody. Welcome to CLCI Live. It's another awesome week. Before we talk about what it is we are going to be discussing, just want to make sure that everybody knows. Please join in the conversation. We will address your questions in the chat, and we want to hear from you. So now let's talk about what we're talking about today.
And what is it we are talking about?
What is it we are talking about, folks?
Ferocious coaching?
Ferocious coaching? That's kind of fun. It sounds like I'm going to attack somebody.
Hi, Carol.
Coaching with ferocity, being a ferocious coach. Say that 3 times fast. Ferocious.
Ferocious.
So I think one of the other things that topics too that's kind of been brought into this is radical candor is also. But let's dive into what we might mean when we say ferocious coaching.
I think being challenging, or maybe not, being able to handle difficult clients maybe as well, but also directly challenging your clients, calling them out on their BS, making them pull their head out of their own butts.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to that. Bringing up when your clients seem to be maybe potentially stuck. I think doing your best to shift that conversation to benefit them by maybe saying some things that aren't necessarily, I wouldn't say mean, but they're not nice. They difficult to hear for your clients sometimes. It can be difficult, but it's again, like Anthony was mentioning, it's a challenge.
It could be dispensing with politeness for the sake of making a point that needs to be made.
I think one of the ways that I appreciated that was put was it's akin to being okay with being sort of the bad guy, being okay with being uncomfortable because you're going to call out your client, right? You're going to, and we can say that, I mean, there's different ways to do that, but the example given was we want you to go in there and coach to get yourself fired. Like, go in, be so honest that people don't like you. And that's real extreme, but I think that taking it to the extreme is a good way to demonstrate, because then we'll find sort of that middle ground, right? Mm-hmm. So
can I insult my clients?
No, that's not what we mean.
I say these things, but I'm just
on the other side.
Oh, go on.
You went too far off the
whale.
I have to be that guy for the sake of the audience. I know not to insult them.
That's where this concept of radical candor comes in, and like there's different ways you can be. And one of the examples given in this concept was there's radical candor, which is where you want to kind of fall, but then you can fall into this sort of category that is like aggressive, sort of a-hole, and that's when you're not being. So the 2 keys is that you still want to be empathetic, and you still you're doing this for the benefit of your client. You are being, I think this is the big sort of, you're being ferocious for the client so that they can grow, so that they can and they can become better human beings. It's always on the with the expectation that the client is going to be what
benefiting
for the benefit of this will be to the client. So let's sort of play with this. What do you think that as coaches we might do that might be the opposite of radical candor, or what some coaches might do?
Hey, it's okay that like you didn't, you said last week you were gonna do X, Y, and Z, and you didn't, and you said that the week before and you didn't, and hey, like it's okay. What do you want to work on this week? Same thing? Okay. Are you gonna do it next week? Okay, you say you will. I'll believe you. I have my trust in you, and then come next week, it doesn't happen, and you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah, there's a space of not holding your client accountable. Also, I would say there is a space where, again, you want to move this conversation, so maybe you're not necessarily listening. I feel like validation is where I'm trying to go. You're validating your client a little bit too frequently, to the point where, again, they're spinning in circles.
Jen?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of not expressing what you see. A lot of times the client will be talking and you as the coach, you see something, but they just keep going on and they're like, right? You understand, right? And it's not ever about that. And so that moment of when they ask, you understand, you get it, right? That's your chance to tell them what you see. Whatever is going on, whatever you notice, you said this, now you're saying this. Those two things directly contradict each other. So what does that mean for you? What's true for you? You know, like really getting into it with them. So being bold and not letting them walk all over you in the sense where they're dominating and controlling every move this conversation makes. It's a collaboration. It's a co-creation. You are involved in that process and you take ownership of that as a coach.
I think that that's so critical, what you just said. Like when we talk about coaching, we often talk about how the client is leading. This is about the client, and how we want to create a safe space, and that the client, we believe what the client believes. We're trusting our client. But we're sort of addressing this other concept where we're introducing this. Okay, no, we have a role in this too as a coach, and we have a role. I mean, we're not just there as yes men.
Right.
We are there yes men and women and non-binary, genderless yes people. We're there to go to challenge them and to actually make these observations, use our intuition, ask those questions, and be bold, like Jen said, and unafraid to maybe point out those things and make observations or mirror their contradictions. It's being a little tough, right?
This is something that's happened I've done very frequently with a handful of clients, where I'll ask a pretty direct question that's, open-ended enough where they can sort of go into it, but it does have a answer, and the client will just kind of start talking, and then go off on a different track and maybe explain themselves a little bit, and they're getting away from the question. And after I let them talk for 5 minutes or so, I'm like, okay, you didn't answer my question though. My question was this. Can you answer that? And so that, I mean, I think that might be did we say vicious or ferocious coaching? Which
ferocious. We're not
ferocious.
Vicious might take it a little too far.
I think that's a good example of ferocious coaching, where you have, as a coach, you have a question in mind, and your client may get off topic. They may, spin the yarn a little bit. It's up to you to sort of bring it back to the point of the coaching session, as long as the question is aligned with what they wanted at the start of the session, or what their session goal was.
Which I was going to add to what you're saying, Anthony, is make sure you're not attached to that question, that you need to have that question answered for you. It's a question that supports just exactly what you said, that supports the client and where they're at in the moment, and it's to enhance what they're experiencing in that session. Mm-hmm. If it's a question that you have that burning desire to have answered, that's an attachment that's the one you want to walk possibly away from.
Do you guys have any other ferocious examples in your repertoires?
Well, I think the point you brought up was that making sure the client doesn't meander is a very good thing. What's interesting in this is I think that if we are going to do this, and if you're taking it to the level of what you really think it is, or what the truest level, it could upset our clients, right? Because they may not want to hear. If you're going to hold them to the fire, like, well, you just said this and you're not going to let go of that, right? Until they come up with a solution, address it. It's going to make everybody a little uncomfortable, I would bet.
I think it's less uncomfortable. I think it stops them in their tracks. Many of the times that I've used it, uncomfortable. I guess if you do it in such a way with attitude, yes. But when you have that rapport, like every one of you had clients, every one of you in some fashion have challenged your clients. Were you challenging in a way that was off-putting to them in the sense of that they don't feel safe anymore?
Well, I think the misunderstanding that I meant when I said uncomfortable, I said everybody. I was referring to the fact that the coach may feel uncomfortable with this as well, because you're not people pleasing anymore, right? You are having to sort of stand your ground and not let the client bulldoze you, because I can imagine there's a lot of times where I think it's good in the right moment to stand your ground and hold it. But if you're challenging something that maybe the client has been telling themselves and all of that over and over, this might be a moment that aha stops in their track moment, but it might be a little difficult for you to bring that. It might be a little scary to be willing to do that.
Yeah, I think also, go ahead, Lisa.
Can you think of a time where it felt that way for any of you, where you recognized the deviation from what they were saying and you felt a little uncomfortable when you brought it to their attention?
I still am in the state where it always activates my nervous system in a way where I'm recognizing this is not comfortable for me to be this bold and assertive. But like you said, Lisa, a coach asks questions without attachment. So I keep that in my awareness of when I point out certain things that I see, I'm offering it to the client without attachment. Even if I say I'm noticing this, or it sounds like, or it seems like, what do you think about that? What does that mean to you? They can come back sometimes and say, no, that's not it at all. And I'm okay with that because it's my duty to offer what I see. That's how we continue to move the conversation forward. So I guess it still feels uncomfortable, but I'm just okay with that as being part of the process as a new coach. I bet it gets more comfortable, but for now I'm still kind of aware of like, okay, that wasn't people pleasing, that's for sure.
And so there, in that space, even yet, there's further way you could even challenge that moment further, because if they have shown up and shared with you some other kind of details, and now they're saying this kind of detail is different, you get to bring it back around. That's the beauty of it, because they often, when they're confused in the direction that they're wanting to go, not recognizing they have those two distinct different tug of wars going on, and bringing that to their attention allows them to go, oh, no wonder I'm blocked, no wonder I've got this happening. Or they are answering what they should and what that right answer should be, but they're not answering what their truth is. They've given you what their truth is and who they are because you've built that rapport, you've gotten enough information. That challenge comes up when they answer it for a test, not for who they are.
I can remember a moment where I was a bit uncomfortable with the client, where she was a people pleaser, so I could see that she was, trying to give, like what you were mentioning, Lisa, the right answer as opposed to actually speaking her truth. But I think this is a reason why it's important to not have personal relations with your clients, is because if you do, you sometimes understand, you know what, I'm pushing that button and I'm going to stop. I won't even ask the question that could get them to the answer that they're looking for. So again, just making sure you're doing your job the right way by continuing to, again, reflect if, that is necessary. Let them know what they have spoke prior in the session, and then also saying that maybe you're contradicting yourself. So again, I think not having personal relations is a key part of that.
I think an example for me sometimes where a client will say contradictory statements, and I will call them out on the contradictory statement, but I will accept the fact that probably both statements are true. I need it explained to me though. And so how I will word it is be like, okay, earlier in the session you said A, and now you're saying B. These two don't seem to align with each other. Can you explain your point of view on like how these are both true, or is one true and not the other true? And so I'll make it sound like I'll say like from a third party perspective, this doesn't seem to be the case, or this doesn't seem to be true, or this doesn't seem to jive. How can you explain from your perspective these two things that don't seem to go with each other? And so I'm probably softening it more than I need to for the person instead of just saying, hey, you're lying to me somewhere. But I mean, there are ways to still challenge your clients and not be uncomfortable with yourself. It just depends on how you word it, really.
Well, what's funny, in one of the articles we read, and I'm just reading, I'm rereading it now, and I kind of want to, I'll just read out loud what she said. We all know intuition plays a big role in coaching. It's easy to fall into intuition in some places, such as, I sense that topic is hard for you, but it's much harder to follow it up it's much harder to follow it by holding up a mirror that reflects back some awkward truths. That sounds like you're hedging. Like, it's a discomfort that I've learned to embrace, even if sometimes I don't always do it well. So essentially, this is, I guess, more, it's like, it's interesting because that line to me, that sounds like it's hedging to me, sounds like you're feeding your client, right? A bit. But I suppose if you're using it as a mirror, a tool to mirror, this is what it, from my perspective, from an outside perspective, this is what I am hearing. And then you would, and so you could be a little rougher mirror essentially there. What does that mean for you? Or what is the what is the truth behind that statement? This is what it sounds like on my end, but what is the truth for you? And I think that that's kind of a very cool tool if I really think about it. And it's not one that I have had the balls to use, let's say, because I've always been very cautious about wanting to put words in the mouth of my client, right? But this is kind of, it seems almost like a bit of an exception where you could do that so long as you of course are saying, this is what it sounds like. What's the truth?
Because you're accepting that your subjective opinion isn't the end all be all of whatever it is the client's telling you. Like, you're at least giving them that, well, this is what it sounds like, and then you followed up with what is your truth? So I can see maybe some amateur coaches being like, well, it sounds like you're saying this, and then just continue on with that assumption and never visiting to try to clarify. So I think maybe I'm trying to remember, is it ferocious coaches?
Yes, ferocious coaching with ferocity, being a fierce coach.
Ferocious coaches would know to challenge and reflect back and ask for more input.
You could even say, right now, what's coming to me, if I can do this with you, is to challenge you. Are you willing to be challenged? I mean, you can even just give it a title and go down that challenging path. That could, for coaches, perhaps if the client agrees, maybe it makes it more or less discomfort. I don't know what the more comfortable, less discomfort, whatever that word best serves here, but anything's possible.
I think that I mean, really the big key in this space, the very important part in this space is that you are okay. So I'll ask it this way instead of saying what it is. If you are not telling your client those observations, telling them, reflecting these observations that are contradictory back to them, or making these observations when they are clearly where it's, your intuition is kicking in, or where, they're making contradictory statements, or they're talking in circles and things like that. If we as a coach do not point these out to them, are we doing a disservice to our client? Are we lying to our clients?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me more about that, Jen.
That's because if we don't supply that, then what is the purpose of the coaching space, right? So if they didn't need that reflection, if they didn't need someone else's, input into what they are saying, what they are thinking, they would figure out their own shit. They wouldn't need a coach. So they need that. It is our duty to the client to supply that. And they are at will to say, no, that's not correct. But actually, let me tell you what just came up for me in you asking that or saying that. Many times, if you reflect something and you're wrong, it still pushes the conversation forward to more awareness.
Jen, I think you just stepped in your power right there too. You just were. I'm just gonna make an observation, but
Jerome,
that was powerful Jen right there. She was like, "Yeah, that is our job, and this is why." Jen knows.
To put it in simple terms as well, you're missing. I brought up the core competency so I could look at it. You're missing core competency 7 and 8, which is evoking awareness and facilitating client growth. That just is missing if you don't do that. So it's I don't know, you're coaching with a limp or a handicap. You're not.
There's no depth.
Yeah, there's no depth. There's no further progression or growth.
A point I was going to bring up. This is kind of, I think, a big line between ACC, PCC, and MCC coaching, right? I think in ACC, you'll find more people that are willing to just sort of take the client at where we're not challenge them, not bring it to that next level. And it's much more the problem. But when we start to coach the person, we have to address that what they're saying is often not matching what's really going on, right? And that's where tools like this, I think, come in really handy, and the permission to be a strong coach.
Yeah.
A fierce coach, to make them know that when they get in there, shoot, I'm going to have to work on myself.
Yeah.
But the end result, because they're doing that work and they're being challenged, is the growth. I think the other thing that ties into this is that anti-fragility too. I mean, if we treat our clients with kid gloves all the time and baby them and hold them safe, and then all we're doing is creating dependency and not, but if we are willing to make it a little uncomfortable, they become stronger, they learn.
So with the couples, I mean, we're doing this all the time because one person in the couple does not hear in the same fashion. They hear with resentment ears, I guess you could say. And so when I hear someone speaking, or if the one person of the couple somehow responds what they've heard, and I've heard something different, I go, well, let's check in. Here, let me share with you what my interpretation is of what you said, blah, 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 blah. Share with me what's wrong, what's right, what is all of that. And so it gives the opportunity for the other partner to hear things differently. So it became a challenge. It was a soft challenge in a sense, because I didn't challenge them directly. I indirectly challenged them by engaging with the person who did speak to find out what their intention and connection to what they were saying was. And so that definitely can cause some disruption. There's the word I'm looking for, the disruption in the experience, because that's where the words "you're lying" will come out sometimes, right? That's where some of the challenging vocabulary even come out from the clients because of their interpretation of a given situation. And so that's what we're not doing, is we're not interpreting, but we are taking the challenge of what that client is saying and helping them recognize their ownership of what they're saying. So the challenge, what is it that they really want to do? How do they really want to show up, and what is it going to entail? They can say one thing and it looks completely different over here. I want to do X, Y, and Z, but over here they've shared how they haven't done anything and how they haven't, and they continue not doing versus the doing that they have to do to achieve this. I can't think of a situation, otherwise I'd share with you, but in that space, we've got two opposite behaviors, and that challenge is, could be, what is it that you really want to do? You haven't done, you've said you want to do. Oh, I know one. I had clients coming in and they kept telling me, that they wanted to create their connecting experience. I'm not going to be real specific. And in that connecting experience, one partner said they were willing to, the other partner said they were willing to. That's what they wanted to do. They came up with it, went home, came back, we didn't do it. And what finally happened is I stopped. I go, I am missing something. I'm clearly missing something. Share with me what I'm missing. And the one person said that they were done with the relationship. They were just there to work on things. So then the truth can come out, right? So they could finally share what their truth was. So that can come out with these challenging kinds of behaviors we have with our clients, and it looks different for each moment.
That question, Lisa, what am I missing?
Yeah,
That's a great one, because it allows you to share your insight or what you see or what it seems or sounds like, and then asking them to define what it is that's not, communicating to you. And that actually can open up a very powerful distinction that could be something very small, but that distinction can be something that completely transformed the client.
and it did. It might not been, if I was attached to making them stay together, if I was making them stay together and attached to that outcome, that would have been I would not have been happy. But I'm not attached to what their outcome is. I'm attached to them getting their work done in my presence that they're supposed to. Getting the job done, not attached to where it ends up. And for some people, that's a challenge. Also, coaches, because they have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think there are other ferocious ways of coaching? I have one thing in mind. I'll go. Also, I think just simply asking your client to display their options in a moment where, if they're trying to get to a goal and they say, this is what I want to do, and you ferociously, in the sense that we're speaking about it now, not maybe raise your voice at them or anything like that, but you ask them, okay, so how are you going to do that? And then you continue and say, when you're going to do this by. I think that can seem a little maybe potentially ferocious, but it's, again, to help your client move forward and progress, move towards their goal clearly and accurately.
I think that's a really good point. That framework, laying that time on things, and like holding your client, like, no, this is part of coaching. It's in the core competencies. It says timely is part of this process. So saying, okay, well, what are we going to do in this session? And then what are you going to do outside of this session, and when? And I think that being I know that this is something that my clients have responded really well to me with, is that it's that ICF framework that for me is very important to me, is we're going to set a session goal. We're going to reach that goal. And then at the end of this, we're going to set some deadlines. like what's happening. And that is a kind of way, something, and I'm just sort of realizing this, that because I've had clients reflect it back to me. I really like your coaching style, because it holds me accountable, holds me to the flame. And I guess a little bit now I'm just sort of realizing, I think that comes from I think my structure, as much, as much as of a rebel I am, I highly adhere to rules and structure. It's the audio digital in me. And so that's an important part. And you're not walking out of the session without us figuring, you're not starting the session without me figuring out what we're going to accomplish. And we're not going to finish the session without you walking out with goals and objectives. And if the goals and our objectives are, I'm going to do nothing because I need to relax, and that's fine. But we're going to say, okay, how are you going to do nothing this week? Right?
We're going to plan for nothing.
We are. And you're going to walk. And what day are you going to do nothing?
So I have a question about this.
Uh-huh.
What happens when you come up against a client who has issues with meeting deadlines or creating, like, what if they want it to just be like, I want this just to evolve organically. I want to do work on my thoughts and my feelings, and I want to just go into my week more conscious, and I want to see how I evolve naturally.
So there's two things. I would want to know what the overarching goal is before I answer that. Because if that client is coming in to accomplish something specific, and there's a specific amount of time that it needs to happen, I would want to reflect back the overarching goal to them. And then if they said, no, this is the best plan for me this week, then I'm not questioning that. Okay. But I would always want to hold up that mirror to remind them that, hey, when you came in, you said you wanted to do X by X. And so I get that you want this, you've said you want organic, so I'm just going to say, is this still in alignment with our overarching goal here? And not be afraid to say that. What?
All of that works. All of that is wonderful. Yeah. There's other ways to address that as well. I could ask in this space, because I think there was a piece of what you said, that this is who they are. And I may have missed that, Jen, I'm not sure, but I'm going to ask, how does that support what you've been doing? Mm-hmm. How does that, making that decision to do it, what you've been doing, support you in this next journey? Mm-hmm. What would the challenge be for you? So definitely,
could you ask?
Yeah. Huh?
Could you ask, how has that been working for you?
Yeah, I have.
Because it's open, you're not making a judgment, but I mean, that's a bold statement.
You could say it in a sarcastic voice as well.
But I mean, honestly, that's a bold statement. How, I just want to do this and this because how has that been working for you?
Yeah.
And that might be an aha moment where they go, shh, I need to, whoa, maybe I do have to step out of my comfort zone. Yeah. Because the truth is, I think, and I can almost say that I'm sure there are exceptions, but in almost every coaching environment, the idea is that we're challenging ourselves to make changes. Like, that's why people are stepping into a coaching session, to challenge themselves to make changes. And any change, we know, it comes with a degree of stepping out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So that client that's like, oh, I just want to be this, which maybe that might be the moment that I go, how's that working for you?
So even what we're talking about, you, the coach, me, the coach, if I'm expecting my client to get out of comfort zone, me, the coach, better get out of my comfort zone as well.
My other question too, in that moment, is it possible, or would it be appropriate if you had that client that was like that, and I said, okay, would it be okay if I held up a mirror here or when I hear you say that, what I hear is I don't really want to work on anything this week. I mean, that's kind of a moment where we could. I hear that you sound like a you know, a kind of flaky, hippy dippy, spooky woo woo. Not making judgments, right? No.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably not go that direction, but something that will help them recognize, you know, in that echoing back of what they're saying.
Could you say, well, what I hear is I'm not going to do any work this week? I mean, I think that that's sort of what this article is saying, is being comfortable with making those, that, I mean, it's those going, okay, hey, I'm saying this because this is what it sounds like to me.
Right, because you'll share back with them. Here, you shared this, you shared that, you've shared all of these ways on how that system that you're talking about did not support you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when you're speaking, it sounds like you're putting your time and energy in a system that doesn't support what you want your outcome to be. So there's all kinds of ways you could say that. Yeah.
But in the end, would you push the client to create specific, concrete goals with deadlines, or would you allow that client to choose that path if they thought that would serve them best?
So, yeah, if they came back and go, you know, I hear you, you've shared with me, you've told me, she's not gonna let him go, but I'm gonna have to let him go.
Well, my thing is, I'd be like, maybe coaching isn't right for you. Get out of here.
Next
Because it doesn't
though,
like
we got next week. Next week you come back and you say you didn't do it again. That's when you get to hold that candle a little closer. Yeah.
But the thing is, though, I mean, if they came in the first session 1, right? If we're at session 1 and they're like, oh, I just sort of want to discover myself, and I want organic, and I want to, well, that's not really what coaching is for, right? That's, for me, that's like, that's what, now you're just, what are we doing? I mean, maybe that's a weird space for me, because I respect the safe space for people to explore and discover who they are. I 100% do. But ultimately, we're not supposed to be coaching our clients for the rest of their lives. So we would still need a goal. For me to have, like, coach with clear conscience, I would still need a goal, because otherwise I'm just taking her money to hang out with her for an hour, and agree with her and say yes. Like,
sometimes I tend to differentiate.
Do the ICF coaching agreement, right? You still have to know what she wants to, or I say she, they want to know what they want to work on today's session. I just want to have a person to speak with and bounce ideas off of. So then, you know, when we're at the end of our session, how do you know that you've accomplished your ability to just bounce things up? What is that going to look like, and how's that? You still have to do the contract.
Right. And usually the client is seeking clarity or some, you know, form of like resolution of whatever is going on in their head, right? There's some sort of battle happening in their head, and they're wanting to just get it out, sort through it, gain clarity so they can move forward potentially on whatever else they're doing.
So that's my question too, though. I mean, that's still, it's so critical to come up with that overarching when we talk about the big goal, because it's we're taking the big goal and the sessions are the micro goals. So like with the big goal, when we said that and they say, okay, I want to sort through stuff going on in my head, well, that's still very intangible to me. I'd ask, okay, so what is that person that's sorted through it all, that's got it, what is going on in their life? How do we know we've successfully done that? And how has your life changed so that you have done that? And that's sort of it. This is sort of me going into my marketing brain in this bit, but that's when we really nail down, okay, I'll know because this will be happening in my life. This will be happening in my life. This will be happening in my life. Yeah. Okay, great. So now we've got sort of a space to work in. We know what we're working towards. And it's tangible. Like sorting through things in your head, ultimately, I think that they want to sort through the things in their head. There's a deeper thing there, and that's that emotional relevance. That's why we, as coaches, it's important that we ask why in those moments. That's the moment we get to ask why. Well, why? Why do you want to sort through this stuff in your head? What's it going to do? What's that going to give you? And that's how you can really learn and discover deeper down what your client really wants. And then you get to working on it.
In my experience, many times the goal is becoming a higher version of themselves, becoming who they want to be, right? Whether it's, more loving or compassionate or more optimistic and positive, more driven, more creative, whatever. They're looking to create that version of themselves, and they're realizing, oh, some of my own thoughts are in my way, quite literally.
Yeah, and I would ask them, okay, what does that higher version of yourself look like? Tell me, describe it, explain it. Tell me what is a day in the life of your higher version like? And then you're going to start getting tangible results. They're going to start to tell you right there, well, I'm going to be happier. I'm going to get along with my husband better. I'm not going to hate my job. I'm going to get up out every day and I'm going to work out and I'm going to feel good. And they'll start to tell you like you're going to start to hear, okay, well, all these things, what is that going to give you? And then, I mean, ultimately is one of the things you mentioned, Jen, is tapping in, like, well, are we all working on the same thing? Because I think a lot of my clients are. But truthfully, every person I talk to, when I do a drill down, it always ends in, well, then I'd be free. I'd be fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really ultimately what we're all seeking. Except for maybe Anthony.
No. I don't think that's possible, so I don't work towards it as a goal.
What is Anthony's ultimate goal?
Doesn't exist.
I think we discussed this past. His goal is to not have goals.
Yep.
Yeah. No purpose, no goals, just get to life and then die, pleasantly happy, I guess.
Doesn't sound terrible.
I wanted to get back to sort of what Jen was saying a bit earlier, was like those different kind of sessions, and I tend to find that my sessions fall into 3 categories of, your standard, you've got a goal, the session contract in mind, and you work towards it, and then you've got actionable things to do at the end. And then it sort of splits into 2 somewhat related categories of exploration and dealing with blocks. And those can take up a whole session sometimes, rather than just addressing what are you going to do to get to your goal. Because I've had some sessions where we're getting to that point, and then I maybe stupidly ask a question, and then the whole edifice of their goal just deconstructs, and they got to like figure things out and reevaluate what they find valuable. And that takes some exploration and digging to do.
The one thing
sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it should happen. But I think for me, and maybe this is me adhering too much to, I would just ask them, okay, I've noticed a change, and I've noticed a change in what was in this topic, and that we're going into this new space. We had this we have this goal for the session, but is this what you would like to explore now? And I just always would ask that question, just sort of make sure to remind them, hey, this is what you said you wanted to do, but I now see we're going down this path, and just sort of do that check-in. Is this the path? Is this where we want to be right now? And then if they say pile ahead, right?
There are some coaches out there who are a little too ferocious and be like, well, let's just get back on track with the original coaching contract and work on that. I don't even know hypothetically how a coach could be like that, but I'm sure some are out there who are a little too they got the blinders on, and it's their goal now to just move the session along.
So I've watched, and I won't say any names, I've watched a couple of sessions when they're, these are popular person up there live, and what they'll do is they will poke and prod and challenge, which, okay, yes, but they'll poke and prod, challenge, and drive the boat, if you will, to make that person give an answer. And I find it interesting because they've done some follow-up with that, and they put that out there. I thought that was interesting as well. And when they put it out there, what they may helped, drive where the client was going, they backpedaled and went back to the, what they were doing. Okay, so maybe they made some adjustments, which is good, but they didn't have to sever a relationship to only get back to the relationship and do those bits and pieces. So I don't agree with a coach driving the boat.
Would this person happen to be named Roni Toppins?
I mean, yeah.
And yeah, moving on.
I think I think what's very cool about this space is we so often, again, talk about let the client leave, all of that. But this is a moment when we're going, hey, this is a little bit when you get to step into your power, coaches, when you get to go, oh no, this is not a collaboration. This isn't just you in a room. This is
Right.
our chance to collaborate. And when we collaborate, it's two people making something better because there's two brains in there and they're both working. And so this is one of those really powerful moments when a coach gets to be an integral part of the process. And that's that co-creating. And you're co-creating when you're I used to say this when I would work with people and we would be working on creative projects. I'd be like, if you don't bring up to me and point out to me things that you think might go wrong, things that you think could be better, things that I will never know, and we're going to make a subpar product, right? Whatever we're creating is going to be less good because I'm not thinking of the things you're thinking. But when you bring your brain in, and we got double the power, we got two people both there kicking butt together, pointing out blind spots, like Carol said. And what's going to be better is the outcomes are going to, that's what's going to be better from this, is from both people sort of working together, and you get better outcomes with more brains involved. And so I would say, so it feels like you're robbing me of opportunity if you don't share it with me. Like, I feel like what you're doing is you're making, it's not going to be as good without this. So this is one of those moments when, as a coach, your sort of feedback, your mirror, your being willing to say, hey, I'm going to hold you to this, or at least point it out to you. We are making our client a better outcome for our clients by doing that. And it's really sort of, I think, brings that this is co-creating. That's what this is. It's not just a client in a room. You're asking questions. And no. You play a very critical role, and this is one of those tools for coaches that is that critical role moment, I should say.
Yeah.
I've got sort of a question now, maybe stepping outside of the, I guess, interior of the coaching relationship and more so how the coach presents themselves. How can coaches maybe present themselves as a ferocious coach? Maybe
I'm going to challenge you. You're not going
to fuck you up. You get 3 minutes.
Are we talking about appearance here, or?
Yeah, are we talking about like in marketing, or are we talking about? I mean,
marketing space, maybe like you're trying to present yourself as a coach who doesn't BS, or maybe trying to separate yourself from the pack. Because my personal interpretation of coaches is they're all kind of woo.
Yeah, you go onto a lot of websites and it feels like that. I think a coach that said with an edge, if there was a coach with an edge that stood out that was like, no, you're not gonna get away with it. It's not going to happen. We're going to grow. You're going to be challenged. This is going to be hard. That might stand out. I'm like, okay. I'm a little intimidated, a little nervous, but I'm ready.
In the comments, be a shark.
Be a shark. Yeah.
Carol loved her Shark Week.
I think we already went through Shark Week, but yes, be the shark.
But I think that's that this won't be easy.
Yeah.
But amazing things aren't always easy. I mean, the whole time. I mean, the whole point is you're here to challenge yourselves. And I think pointing that out, setting the groundwork with your client and letting them know session 1, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. And sometimes honesty isn't the easiest thing to hear, but I'll always be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sam at the office has some opportunity here. You can dress up as a drill sergeant. And,
I was thinking about. I wanted to ask earlier. When is it okay to yell at your clients? Is it
When
ever
you
okay?
ask for it? No, I don't think so. I don't think yelling needs to happen ever. I don't think yelling is okay. I don't think I'm just not okay with yelling.
I think in
I've
the
had to
right
stand up
context.
a few times because we were in person. I've had to stand up, put my hands on the hip, like get the puffer fish, get bigger to settle their little.
Because they're arguing with each other. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So maybe in a group coaching session, or maybe if you have to talk to a lot of people, you can start yelling then.
Yeah. Well, of course, if there's a crowd of people, you got to keep them in line.
Yeah. But that's also, we're not considering, like we're talking in a space where I think the assumption is it's like a coach who's on a one-on-one session, maybe a Zoom call, maybe they're in a room with their client or maybe two clients. There are a lot of people going through our classes now who are not coaching in that context one bit. They're coaching in an organizational sense where maybe a bit of ferocity is part of the job, or it's your responsibility to be abrupt and prompt and, ferocious.
Yeah, you do bring up a good point. When you're in the business coaching and you're going out to an organization, a lot of the times you're there to get someone in alignment with the corporation, that they like who that person is on some place, but on other areas they needed to have improvement. So improvement, there's going to be lots of discomfort when you're working with that client.
Mm-hmm.
We're also, there's coaches who are in the military as well, and they aren't the softest bunch of people when it comes to, being responsible, talking to their either superiors or people who work under them. You have to make quick decisions sometimes, and sometimes coaching comes along with that, where you have to be more abrupt and more focused, but still, have candor, doing it for what's best for the person involved in the coaching session.
I mean, that's always the key in all of this. We can do it, but we're always doing this so that we can benefit. It's for the client's benefit.
Yeah,
it's
for the client's
for
benefit.
empathy. It's so that they can have better outcomes, and so that the end results can be better and stronger. And we're not doing it because from an ego place. We're doing it from a place of, no, I'm going to just be honest with you because this is the best thing right now. So, yeah, it's kind of like tough love.
Yeah.
Entire time.
Now I'm imagining some parents in class, like, be a ferocious parent who loves your child.
Yeah.
Give them tough love.
Just be honest. Alrighty, I think that about wraps up our live. Thank you guys so much for, as always, make sure you go out there and be ferocious. Be fierce. Rawr. Everybody
It's like a kitten. I guess I gotta go like this. Bigger.
Make sure you guys check out Certified Life Coach Institute. We certify coaches in 3 days. Also, make sure you like, follow, share, all of that good stuff. Subscribe. Did I forget anything?
In our classes.
Next week.
Oh, and next week we'll be back at 4 o'clock with another awesome coaching topic. So,
yep.
Bye.
All right.